Hello everyone, thank you for joining us in this session of Spokane Public Schools Keeps Learning series for mathematics. Today's lesson is for students in grade 3, but all are welcome to join in. My name is Kelsey Shadow and I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Cooper Elementary in Spokane Public Schools. Today we will be investigating multiplication through a series of story problems. If you missed our last lesson, feel free to visit the KSPS website to view it and many other lessons as well. For today's lesson, it may be helpful to have something to solve these equations on, like a paper and pencil. I'll give you some time to go gather those supplies, and then we will begin. Hopefully you were able to find something to solve these on, and let's go ahead and get started. Before we begin talking about our story problems, we all need to make sure we're on the same page about what is multiplication and when would we actually use multiplication. Multiplication is the opposite of division. It's that repeated addition where I have equal groups and I have the same number inside of each group. Now, some of you might be saying, Ms. Shadow, when would I ever use multiplication? Well, multiplication is something that we use oftentimes to find out how many total items there are or how many total people there are if I'm using groups and the number in each group. Now, these multiplication equations could look something like the number of groups times the number in each group equals your total number. Now, I could also have it written opposite. The number in each group times the number of groups equals that total number. The cool thing about multiplication is that order doesn't matter. 4 times 3 is equal to 3 times 4. Either way, I end up with 12. It's that commutative property of multiplication that helps us to know that order doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and begin with this equation. The problem says, for lunch, 3 kids had chicken nuggets. They each ate 5 chicken nuggets. How many chicken nuggets did they eat all together? So to go about this, we have 2 different parts of this problem. The first problem is I have my number of groups. My group is me talking about those 3 kids. And my number inside of each group is saying that they each ate 5 chicken nuggets. So that's telling me that if I were to draw this out, I would have 3 groups. And I would then put my 5 chicken nuggets into each group. And I know it's kind of hard to draw on here. So if I have 3 groups of 5, how can I solve that in a multiplication equation? I could do 3 times 5. I could also do 5 times 3. I could do 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. I could do 5 plus 5 plus 5. Those all work. What is the answer to each one of those equations? How many chicken nuggets did they eat in all? 15. Great job. So I'm going to write 15 nuggets as my final answer. Sorry about my handwriting on here. I know it's not great. Here's what I want you to remember. This label is very important that we write. That shows the reader that you understand what it is that you're talking about. Are you talking about nuggets? Are you talking about kids? Are you talking about how many Happy Meals they got? It is important that you label your work, and I'm going to expect that on each one of these problems when you say your final answer. So how many chicken nuggets did they eat altogether? They ate 15 nuggets, or 15 chicken nuggets. Let's move on to this next question. This question said Justin had chickens that laid eggs. We went out to collect eggs yesterday and had a total of 3 dozen eggs. How many eggs did Justin find in all? So if this is the equation that I'm left with, what key facts do I need to pull out? I know that he found 3 dozen, and that's the only key fact that I know from that equation. I know what my question is, that it's how many eggs, so I know my answer needs to have that label of eggs on it, but there's a word in here that I need to know what it means, and it's dozen. Does anybody know when I'm talking about a dozen, how many I'm talking about? I have 3 sets of what? A dozen is equal to 12. Great job. So 3 groups of 12. Now, I could do 12 groups of 3. That seems like a lot. I could add 12 3 times. So if I do that, I could start by looking at just those tens places. And those tens would give me what? Perfect. I would have 30 in those tens. And then if I looked at my ones place, I have 2, 2, and 2. So 2, 4, 6. So 30 plus 6 equals 36 as my answer. So 3 times 6 does equal 36. Now I want to show you a way that's doing the same thinking, but in terms of multiplication, rather than looking at that repeated addition. Now I could break that 12 into a group of 10 and a group of 2, just like I just did. But this time, rather than adding them repeatedly, I'm going to multiply each one by 3. So I have 10 times 3, and I have 2 times 3. Now, each one of those are their own sets of equations, which is why I put parentheses around them. Then at the end, what I need to do is add those 2 numbers together. So 10 times 3 is what? 10, 20, 30. And 2 times 3 is what? 2, 4, 6. So 30 plus 6 equals 36. Now, look at down here. It's that same equation. All I did was look at it in terms of equal groups. When I do that repeated addition and I add up those groups of 10s and I add up those groups of 2s, I'm doing repeated addition. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 sets of 10. That's where I got that 3 times 10. Then I have 2, 4, 6, or 2 groups of 3. I want you to take what we just talked about and see if you can apply it to the next equation. Now that we have finished that question all about dozens, we have a number that's a little bit larger than dozens in this equation. Let's take the same process we did there and see if we can apply it here. Our story problem says, out at recess there were 5 bags, each filled with 16 recess balls. How many balls are outside at recess total? What are my key facts? I have 5 groups, great job. How many are inside of each group? Perfect, there are 16 inside of each group. So my equation could look like 5 groups of 16. Now, I could take 16 and add it 5 times, so 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16. That's a lot of thinking there. What else could I do? Let's take a minute and let's see how can I do this by using what we just talked about. Let's break apart that 16 into a group of 10 and a group of 6. Now each one of those I need to multiply by 5, but not together. After I multiply each one by 5 is when I can go and add them together. So my first set, 10 groups of 5. Who knows what 10 times 5 is? Great job. 10 times 5 is 50. Then I need to add it to my second group. What is 6 times 5? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I have 30 in that second group. So what do I need to do with those two numbers now? Great, I need to add them together. So 50 plus 30 equals what? Or 5 plus 3 is 8. So 50 plus 30 equals 80. What am I missing on the end of that answer? Exactly, I am missing that label. So I need to tell my reader that I know that I'm not talking about the bags of balls, but I'm talking about the balls themselves. Altogether, there are 80 different types of recess balls. So that could be soccer balls, wall balls, footballs, any of those sort of things outside at recess. Let's begin with this next one. Now, I want you to take a minute and I want you to realize these numbers in this problem are really large, but they're not too overwhelming for you. We're going to break it down and we're going to do it step by step. There were 4 classes of third graders. Each class had 20 students. How many third graders were there in all 4 classes? So, if that's my equation, what are my key facts? I have 4 classes, and I have 20 students in each class. So I have 4 groups of 20. That's what I know right now. Now, some of you might be at the point where you're like, 4 groups of 20? That's great, I got it, and I'm ready to move on. Others of you might be thinking, 4 groups of 20, I can't do 4 times 20. I don't know how to do that. Let's slow it down. Let's look at 4 groups of 2. Can you solve that one? 2, 4, 6, 8. All I have to do here is multiply that by a 10 because I multiplied this one by a 10. So 2 times 10 is 20. So 8 times 10 is 80. So rather than getting overwhelmed and getting to the point where you turn off and you're not sure how to move on, take a step back and let's look at how I can use those groups of 10s or those facts of 10s to make sense of something on an easier level. Now I'm going to do it a little bit more of a challenge. I'm going to change the equation on us. Let's say rather than there being 20 in each class, let's say that there was 22 in each class. How would you go about solving that? Thinking about what we just did with those groups of 12, with looking at those dozens, I know that my equation is still going to be 4 times 22. What can I do here? I can break that 20 into 20 and 2. That 22, I can add 20 plus 2 to get to it. I already know that if I take and multiply this one by 4 and multiply this one by 4, you have already done half the thinking to this problem. This group right here is what you've done up here at the top. So let's use that thinking for our 80. Now, all I have left to do is come up with my other half. What's 2 groups of 4? We've already done that too. Let's use that knowledge and add that in. How many groups or how many third graders are there now if there's 4 groups of 22? Awesome. There are now 88 students in 3rd grade. Okay? Use what you know to solve these problems. Don't get overwhelmed by those numbers. So both of them are missing their label. What's that label that needs to be added on to the same? Perfect. Students. And then down here, I also need to write out students. Great job. Let's do one final one together. So to end our session today, we have one final question. Now we're going to be taking what we've been working on by breaking apart those numbers and coming up with 2 different multiplication equations and adding them together. We're going to see if we can use that method here. The question says, there were some kids playing with marbles. 3 kids had 6 marbles each, and 8 kids had 5 marbles each. How many marbles did the kids have in all? What are my key facts here? Great, I have 2 different sets. I know that there's 3 kids that have 6. And my other set of facts is that I have 8 kids that have 5. So let's look at each one of those equations separately. I have 3 groups that had 6 in each. Then I also have 8 other groups that each have 5. So now that I know my 2 equations, I need to solve them separately and then add them up. I could also do repeated addition here, but I want us to get in the habit of solving those multiplication equations. So that first equation that I have 3 groups of 6. Does anybody know what 3 groups of 6 is? Let's try counting by 6s. 6, 12, 18. Now let's see if we can count by 3 6 times and also get to 18. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Both ways I got to 18. Now I need to know 8 groups of 5. What's 8 groups of 5? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Great job. Can we count by 8s to check that thinking? 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. Great job. What is 18 plus 40? Now, if you need it stacked, here's it stacked. In my ones column, I have a 0 and I have 8. So 0 plus 8 is 8. And in my tens column, I have 40 plus 10, or 4 plus 10 would give me 5 tens, or 50. So altogether, I know that I have 58 what? What is missing? Great, I'm missing that label. 58 marbles. In our time together today, I want to challenge you to come up with 4 multiplication equations when you use equal groups around your house. Maybe you're looking at matching pairs of socks and how many socks are there all together. Maybe you are looking at making sure everybody has the same number of chicken nuggets or the same number of French fries when you're serving dinner or lunch. Maybe you are looking at dividing up markers during art time with your brothers or your sisters. Maybe you're looking at pairs of shoes and how many pairs of shoes are in your house or how many shoes there are all together. I've enjoyed doing some math with you today. Thank you for joining me as you continue to learn from home. If you would like some more activities, feel free to head to Spokane Public Schools Learning at Home's website. I look forward to seeing you again soon on our next lesson at KSPS.